Hey guys, this is Piers Ridyard. I'm just recording a little thing at the start of this podcast, just to say why we're speaking with RedFoo and what we're going to be doing. I met RedFoo at South by Southwest, super cool guy, and he is like diving deep into the coding world, and we ended up hitting it off and deciding that we were going to organize a hackathon at his house, at his ranch in Malibu, California, where four people from the Radix community can come along, can apply to come along and be part of a Scrypto hackathon where we're going to build something with Scrypto together with RedFoo from LMFAO, sort of multi-platinum award-winning pop rock rap artist who is now gone deep into coding. This interview is going to be with RedFoo, talking about how that journey happened and how he got into it, and let you guys see the passion and the belief that he has both in programming and coding as something, an incredibly important skill that anyone should have, but also how important the crypto blockchain space is, how important DeFi is going to be, and how excited he is to be building with Radix and Scrypto as well. So please do enjoy that, but also remember that if you want to get involved, if you actually want to spend 3 days programming with RedFoo in Malibu, California, when do you get that opportunity? It's going to be freaking awesome, and you get to build something cool with Scrypto all at the same time. So without further ado, enjoy the podcast and hopefully see you guys out in California. Hello and welcome. I am Piers Ridyard, CEO of RDX Works, a core developer of the decentralized finance protocol Radix, a public ledger entirely focused on bringing DeFi into the mainstream. This is our podcast, The DeFi Download, a show about decentralized finance and all things crypto, where we dive into the details of the projects, assets, and services that are powering the DeFi revolution. Today, I'm joined by RedFoo, coder, musician, tennis player, and one of the two founders of the band LMFAO. RedFoo, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So you've got like some people will know you obviously from your music. You've got some amazing music behind you. The Party Rock Anthem, Every Day. I'm Sexy and I Know It. Shots. Like there's just like you guys were an absolute must listen to part of like my teenage years, and so like that's awesome. And then but since then, like you built this incredible machine for creating a good time in your music. But since then, you've sort of been looking at coding and programming more, and that was one of the things that sort of struck me as so interesting about you when we met at South by Southwest. So I'd love to like understand just like how you went from being a musician to a coder.
Well, I was always fascinated with electronics. I had the Apple IIc growing up. I was playing video games on the Atari, ColecoVision, Intellivision, Nintendo. And I was always listening to music, growing up, growing up during the 80s, always fascinated by drums and rhythms, and stumbled upon a drum machine, when I was a kid, and got this electronic instrument and started playing drums and started sequencing some stuff and making patterns. And it just blew my mind. And back then it was a lot about, I can make these beats and store them and recall them with patterns. Eventually I got into like Casio keyboards and sampling my voice and going 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, And I was fascinated. I was like, wow, it samples. And I started to think like there's something going on more. There's like a computer that's storing this stuff. I started to use the Apple IIc to print out stuff. Everybody had the typewriter. I mean, I grew up and there was a typewriter, and I started printing out, you know what I'm saying? And I started printing out reports I started doing it in the word processor. on the Apple and then printing it out. And I was like using technology, and I started to feel like I could get ahead in the sense like, this is faster, this is more efficient. Cut to, I'm like 17, I'm in Sweden, and I'm on the 4-track doing stuff kind of manually. I go back to LA to finish out 12th grade, and I get an Atari, and I start MIDI sequencing on the Atari, and I'm in the computer now, and now I'm sequencing all this stuff. I will mention that my father was into the PCs, and so he was doing DOS, and he was writing, and I learned like how to go into the DOS command prompt and do all that.
Was he using it for his music as well, or was that like just his own personal interest?
No, he was writing a book.
Oh, right.
And he had some friends come over, and they were always in DOS. You had to start the programs in DOS, and you had to look up. It's kind of like Linux, how you have to type ls to look up the directory. DOS had something, I think it's dir /p/page, and you're looking and you're seeing where your files are. And so that I was getting into the file system, getting off the GUI into the command prompt. But all this time, I'm a user. I'm using computers to make my music, to record my music and to record MIDI. Then, DAWs came in, and I started using Cubase and recording, and I was always like up on that. And I was always teaching everybody around me, like, this is the new thing, blah, blah, blah. And it came very easy to be the best user of the equipment. And, did the LMFAO stuff, recorded all that stuff, mixed and mastered it. Produced most of it, had some friends come in and produce some stuff, Goon Rock and AudioBot and Sky did some stuff like Shots, and we were just producing everything ourselves, making everything ourselves. And I realized the laptop is like the computer, the laptop, this is the most incredible invention ever. Like you can just make stuff and you can compete with corporations. I mean, we made everything in the house, in the garage, in the laptop, and we're making records that sound like you're in the big studio.
Right.
So,
which is amazing, right? Like that, like people don't understand. Like now, it's just so every day. Like there's two things I think are so interesting here. The first is in the early days of the computer, like it was actually much closer to programming as an interface than it was to just like a graphical user interface. A graphical user interface was like either incredibly basic or you just didn't use it at all. And so like you just open up the computer, there's your DOS prompt, off you go. And then the incredible power of being able to do something that previously was completely off limits to people, now just on their lap or in their house that they could do stuff. So that must have been intoxicating and incredibly exciting.
Yeah. It was amazing. And you start to hear this dialogue starting to form from friends, from family members. Like, I'm not good at computers, I'm, technology is not for me, blah, blah, blah. And in my mind, I was like, man, this is the future. Like, don't you guys see where this is going? My mom told me, I said, hey, there's this thing called email. It's becoming big, because I was into the internet when it first started with digital popcorn and AOL, and you had to use dial-up modems, and we had to like do a bunch of configuration just to get in and send some messages back and forth to other people. And this is where you had no friends. You go on there and you have random people on the internet as your friends that are into this thing. And I told my mom, I said, there's this new thing called email. And she said, oh, son, I don't do tech. I don't do that. I prefer to write my letters. And I told her, and she was looking for a new career and a job. And she was like, I want to be an executive assistant. And I said, I guarantee you, if you don't learn email, you will not have a job in the future. And she was like, oh, well, And 2 weeks later, she had to learn email for her job. And that's all she does is email me every day now. Talking about this, and actually she's, working for my publishing company as well.
That's awesome.
So, and she's the executive assistant to Ice Cube, the rapper Ice Cube. Yeah. And that's how good she is on email and coordinating and calendar. She's went from Outlook, so the point is I've always believed in this stuff. And there was a moment, a couple moments in my past that I remember. I remember I was playing a video game. It was like pole position, but it wasn't pole position. And I remember feeling like I was inside of the computer's head because I knew every turn. I knew that if I started here and the computer, and I would always get like first place in, this big arcade machine. My dad had the real machine.
Oh no, that's awesome.
And and I started to feel like I was a computer, like I was like, I get this stuff. And it wasn't till after the second album of LMFAO that I ever thought, what if I learned how to code? Right. It wasn't, I was always never thought, what's the code behind this stuff? Even as a kid with the Apple IIc, I never thought, what's making these programs run? I just knew that they could run and I could use them. And I didn't want to become the user anymore. I wanted to become the developer, the programmer, or at least understand how, what's a variable, what's a function. I started to make some iOS apps. And I just knew once I got it that I could create in this language. And I treated it like a language. Like, right. I could learn French, I could learn Chinese, Japanese, but I wanted to learn coding, and I know there's a lot of sub languages, Python and JavaScript, but I just wanted to understand what is coding. When a user types something in, the computer, does something, it's instructions for the machine to give you information back, to store information. I needed to know that stuff. And
this has always been
fascinated.
You were saying like you're like, one of the things that I thought was so interesting about this realizing that coding was part of your like destiny. Like you were talking about where your name comes from. I love that story. Yeah. Can you tell me that story?
Yeah. As all rappers do, they need a cool name. You can't, because my birth name is Stephen Gordy, but MC Stephen Gordy, it's not cool. It doesn't rhyme with a lot of things. It's a Stephen Gordy, a Teflon Shorty. It's hard to rhyme. So I was sitting there and I was like, people call me Fool a lot. And I said, I'm going to name myself. What do people call me? They call me Fool. Like, man, you's a fool, man, blah, blah. And then I closed my eyes and I said, well, what am I? What's my personality? And I thought of the word passion, and it was red. And I saw like this red color. I was like, ooh, and my skin tone's kind of red, we got the same kind of red hair, and so I'm like red. And then it was Red Fool. And it was MC Red Fool. And I said, nah, that don't sound, the L on fool is kind of weak. So I took off the L. They might call that a vector slice in Rust, or stupid, no. But I popped out the L on the array. And it was just Red Foo. Okay. And I was like, Foo. And I had no clue that Foo Bar was a big coding situation. It's like a placeholder. It's like John Doe, but it's in coding. And then Foo is the Foo Fighters. I had heard of them, but I didn't know what they were. And Foo is like alien, kind of like they're fighting the Foo. So every time I look at documentation, I always see foo bar, foo this.
Right.
And it gives me like, man, maybe this is my destiny, you know, coding. So that's the thing. And I also had a dream.
I was going to say you had a dream as well.
Yeah. I had a what I thought was a nightmare. I had a migraine one time, and you know, with the migraines, you get kind of nauseous and stuff. And so I just, you know, it's the best thing, just go to sleep. That's how I always did it. And I went to sleep, and I woke up, and I was sweating, and I had like a fever. You know, it was like I was hot, and my parents are like waking me up, like, you know, you all right? You all right? And they were like, you were like tossing and turning, and I woke up, and I had tears in my eyes. I was crying. I was like, I had a nightmare. You know, they were like, what is it? What is it? And I said, it was the numbers. It was the numbers. And they were like, well, like, what do you mean the numbers? All kind of crazy numbers? And I said, yeah, it was just ones and zeros. There were so many of them, and they were just ones and zeros. And when I said that to myself, I was like, that's not that scary. You know, and I was like, why was I so overwhelmed? And it looked like binary. It looked like black and white, like white zeros and ones on a black background. And that's what I saw. And then I get into programming and binary and you know, all that stuff. And I'm like, man, maybe that was the foos coming down. And that was when I was like 13 years old or something. Right. So that was way before RedFoo.
Right. And then you started using, as you started to learn, you know, programming, you've also started, you like it all of the stories you've told me seem to always have quite a practical bent to them at the start, right? Especially what you were doing with your Twitter feed, because you went from being like, okay, I want to automate some stuff, to actually going into being like actually starting to program some stuff, right? I love the application you did with Twitter. I'd love to talk about that a bit as well.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite. I was on the road, and at this point, I'm on the road. It's I'm on my solo album, solo tour, and I cannot get coding off of my brain. And so I'm like, well, if I have to be on the road, what can I do? And I was like, oh, I'm going to make a Twitter bot. I read some tutorial. I got some YouTube tutorials on how to access the Twitter API. And I made a bot that every time somebody added RedFoo, the bot would pop up and give a reply and say, hey, I noticed you tweeted RedFoo. Would you like to hear his new album? And reply with yes, you know, right? So then you know, the person would reply with yes. The bot would say, give them another message. Okay, here's RedFoo's album. Here's the song list. Reply with the song number you want to hear. And it was coded to where it could keep track of, like, you know, the same user, if they had said yes before, and then if they said a number, then play that track number. And then I went to the blog, and then they play one and say, okay, here's a link to that track. And it would go to my blog, which I think I embedded a YouTube of the track, and then they could comment on it. And I loved it. I was using it. And then I said, you know, we had a show every day. So I said, oh, I noticed you tweeted RedFoo. Did you know he had a show? And we were live streaming the show. So it was like, here's a link to tune into the show in 2 hours. I still think it's amazing. I still think people should be doing it. But the issue was, since I was kind of like a newbie, I created an infinite loop. And so every time you added RedFoo, the bot would say, hey, I noticed you added RedFoo. And then the bot thought that was a new tweet. And then it said, I noticed you. And it was just a loop. And then Twitter just, boom, cut me off. They were like, you have 1 million requests in 1 second, you know. And then I did it again. And then they cut me off again. And then I had to keep renaming the bot, re-uploading all the, you know, the stuff. And I met the Twitter guy one time, one of the, not Jack, but one of the CEOs. Maybe now Elon can help me out. I need to get my bot back. Elon, I need to get my bot back.
We'll see if we can hook you up, man. We'll get you in front of Elon and be like, because he's on a mission to get rid of the bots on Twitter because there's so many like scam bots that are happening on Twitter. So it's going to be interesting to see how both of those things come together. But I feel like the RedFoo bot needs to get a free pass. That's a must. So your journey, sort of APIs, and you said you're building iOS apps, so you started to learn Swift, and then after that, like, how did you first come across crypto? Like, how did that happen?
Well, I was kind of like still searching to really understand it. I did some iOS stuff, but a lot of the building with Apple and getting approved and all that stuff, and I just kind of slowly faded out of that. I love the Twitter stuff, but then I got banned by Twitter. So then it was like, and then I found crypto because it was like, wait, it's decentralized. You can't really get banned. I mean, it's open. And I've always been interested in trading stocks and money. And so I saw the crypto kitties and I saw that, man, I was like, they got the kitties up there. It's a game. They're collecting things. I was like, this is pretty cool. So I got into Solidity, started watching some tutorials, and they had all the tutorials on how to do like an auction or voting tutorials. And there was one guy that was talking about how to be the owner. And I had an idea. I'm going to make a betting app. Where two friends can just bet on something, and one can declare, you put up something in escrow, some ETH in escrow, two people, and then you declare, I think that the weather is going to be -50. True. You send the bet to the other guy. He sees it and he says, "Oh, I think that it's going to be over 50." The nightly drop, that's,
right.
So I say false. And then whatever it is, one of the players say, I declare a winner. The other player says true or false. And then the money gets, and I built that, and I had to learn a little bit of JavaScript to get the Web3 front end to work. And it was amazing. And the only thing I didn't like about it was kind of the MetaMask, the onboarding, where people were like, what's crypto? What's MetaMask? And I really just wanted to build apps. And so I did it for a little bit. Then that crypto crash happened. After Bitcoin went up to like 20,000, and then it went back down. And no one would play with me. I said, hey, let's bet. Let's use crypto. They said, hey, So that kind of like washed out all the crypto scrubs that were just, trying to make a quick buck. And I still wanted to program. So I went to JavaScript and started doing stuff. But what I learned on that Solidity and how simple the ownership, and I realized that I like fintech and I like numbers and I like, being very secure and stuff. And so I built some trading bots for Binance. I built, and using the EMAs. Did they work? Yes. Did they make money? No. Because it's tough. It's tough. I mean, I was up. When it was up, it was up. It was down, it was down. And then I made one that was on Python, and I made one with traditional finance. I made a trading bot. And, I'd be up. I mean, literally, it took like 3 months. I mean, I'd be up every day watching the bot. Oh, no, what the hell, but it's phenomenal. So, yeah, I'm a coding addict. Not codeine, not the drug, codeine, not the drug, but the
coding, a programming addict.
Coding with the I.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I suppose like the reason that we're doing this hackathon, right, is is all wrapped up in this. But the other story I'd love to bring into this is your love of chess, right? And like
Yes.
that, like how that came about, because I think it's such an interesting part of your personality, but also the way your brain works, and like where I think like passion for systems, right? Like chess is a system. It's got a set of rules. It's got a way in which you can then decide how to work within those rules. But chess has been big in your life, right?
Yeah, chess has been huge. My dad taught me chess, and I fell in love with chess as a kid. I didn't play in school in the chess club. I was really into sports, so it was like really different. And then before LMFAO, I moved to Hollywood and I started playing chess at the Coffee Bean with the Russians. And anybody that would play, they would just sit down. And had this met this Russian friend. He was older, and man, he was teaching me chess. I mean, he was teaching me because he was beating me, but I thought I was already good. I had been playing tournaments already, but he had this defense, and I just learned. And I sat at the Coffee Bean for like a couple years, just figuring out right before LMFAO, what was I going to do with my life? And I was playing chess and I was dreaming of stuff, and I loved it. And chess and coffee, and I didn't know that it was a 2D matrix. You know, I didn't know the math of it, but I just visually and the moves, and I could think ahead. Actually, my first rap song was "Life is a Game of Chess."
No
RedFoo and Dre Croon. You can find it on YouTube. "Life is a Game of Chess." It's old, way before LMFAO.
I'll add that to the show notes for sure.
Yeah. So, I play a lot. I play social chess. I play speed chess. I play 2-minute speed chess, and it's like coffee. I mean, it's like a drug. Thinking that fast and feeling, on the edge, and you got to make the right move, and that's what got me into coding. Also, because sometimes at first you go into something, you go out of it, and every time I play chess for 2 months straight or whatever, I always go into coding because I'm like, I know I got something in my brain. There's a logic that I have. If I can apply this logic to a system to build something, because chess, you're not really building anything. You're just kind of exercising your mind, showing everybody maybe how smart you are, clever you are. It's a competitive game, but I need to build. I need to make things, and so I always I play chess, and then I'm like, ooh, I got to code. So, this hackathon that we're doing, the fact that we're going to do it with chess is a dream come true. I mean, to make a chess engine, that's crazy.
Right. And to make it into something that is an application that can be, that you can then build financial sort of rules around, that you can build, like I don't want to reveal everything that we're going to be doing during the hackathon, but like we're going to be doing some really cool stuff with that chess engine and extending that out to make some really exciting stuff. And like, I think it's going to be massively exciting. I know that many people in the community are going to be pumped to be able to come out to your house in Malibu and build, to build for 3 days, like properly build something awesome using Scrypto, using the Radix engine, using the chess engine that you're building, and like extending that out to make something really interesting, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing that we've talked about a lot is like this idea of technology being such a huge opportunity, and like the idea that there's so much potential for people here, but they just need to take that step. So like how many people do you hope that you inspire as a result of this hackathon? Like what do you hope is the outcome of people seeing that you're leaning into coding and starting to do it?
It's like, hey, if RedFoo can do it, anybody can do it. And that's because I have taken coding from not knowing anything. Just being the user, the player. And where we're today is you can learn anything off the internet, YouTube, Udemy, whatever you want. There's meetup groups, there's discords. I mean, you go on the Radix discords, you become a Rust and the Scrypto master if you go over there. And and so coding is not just a hobby. It's like when I told my mom, you got to learn email or you won't have a job.
Right.
Coding it's like, it should be everybody's second language. And I hope to inspire, the local community, the people that follow me, but also just the world. Like everybody needs to code. Because, and you don't have to, it's like, you can say, oh, well, I just don't like it, but you love it. You do love it because you use your phone every day, and that's
right.
nothing but code. You use your computer every day, that's code. Use your car. Every device in your home is powered by code on a processing chip. If it's your coffee maker, if it your alarm clock, everything. And I want to inspire people to not just be the consumers in life and not just be the users, but to be the programmers and program your own life, your own future, your own destiny. And through code is the easiest way, because you can be two brothers, from I forget what country they are, but they made WhatsApp, just two dudes, I think two dudes did Google. You know what I mean?
Two dudes did Stripe. Two brothers did Stripe.
Two brothers did Stripe. Do you know that females, a lot of women are like, oh, well, women don't code. That's the first programmer in history recorded was a female programmer. The person that invented the compiler was female. I think her name was Ruth. So the point is this is for everybody. Coding is, it's the now, it's the future. And you could be creative coding. You could code, art. You could use art with code, and it just organizes everything, but it gives you power. It gives you power because, I've done stuff. Even on Excel, on Google Sheets, I made a sheet that it pulled in all my future shows, how much I was expected to make on every show. And I color coordinated all the dates and using, coding every cell and making it do this. And so I always code. I made a doggy door that opens up automatically when it detects motion. Because the mice were coming in through they ate through the rubber flap. So we got a piece of wood. It's on my Instagram. You could see it. And I programmed it in Python on a Raspberry Pi, $50 computer. And the thing is going up and down when it detects motion. The dogs are going in and out. The mice, they don't like it. It's too much noise. It's too scary for them, so they stay out. That was, that's my vegan way. A lot of people said, just kill the mice. Just, get a cat.
Well, what do you say to people? What do you say to people like how? Like, I think one of the wonderful things that you're sort of like hugely demonstrating and like through all of this stuff is a lack of willingness to be intimidated and a lack of fear of failure, right? And I think so many people look at coding and they go, I can't do it. It's almost like for some people, it's almost like maths, right? They almost have like this automatic reaction because I had a bad experience when I was young with computers or complexity, and now I just don't want to do it. It's beyond me, and I've accepted it's beyond me, and I'm never going to step into it. So, what do you say to people who feel like that about coding?
I say, if you can pay for your food and do the taxes, balance the taxes. If you make a bet with a friend and they short you $1 and you can catch that, like, hey man, hey, you got to owe me $5. You only gave me $4. You have enough logic to code, right? If you can, and I'll tell you this, I was always the class clown. I was not a scholar. I liked math, but I failed math. I failed, I only had like a 9th grade math education, and then I got into music, and I was not a scholar at all. And I thought I was, dumb in like education terms. I was good at video games, but like in school, it was kind of dumb because teachers would call me dumb. No, my dad never called me dumb, but friends would, how they make fun of you if you get a bad grade. Yeah. So there's a lot of bad experiences, and coding was like the smartest. It was the icon of right. Super smart. I mean, it was all the movies and the war games and the coders and they were super geniuses. And chess was a game that I said, wait, I think coding is like chess. I said, man, I'm too good at chess to not try it, So I was very intimidated. Like I said, I never thought of ever me coding anything until the second album of LMFAO, right? It was like, I did some HTML and CSS. Remember MySpace? And you can change your CSS. That helped. But still, there was people making CSS generators. I always thought, that's beyond me. That's beyond me. Right. So I had to switch my mind. And it was a simple switch. It was just learn. It's okay. You can learn from scratch. You can learn from nothing. And I've adopted that with everything because I learned music from scratch. There was a time where I didn't know what the sampler did and this and the Cubase and the Atari, and I had to learn, and you read the manuals and you watch a YouTube, you don't need to grow up around programmers to get into programming. You just got to have YouTube, Google, so I say, go for it and find, pick a project, pick something that you want to make. Mm. I've made tic-tac-toe. I spent 2 months making tic-tac-toe and on Python. Ooh, and people are like, you got hit records, you got songs all over the world, and you're making tic-tac-toe. But it's equally as important to me because now I can teach coding as well. It's not just me, and that's what I hope to do is just teach everybody around me. I've got a friend that did not know coding at all. He stayed with me for more than a year. He's building his own social network, full stack, JavaScript, MongoDB, Node.js, Express. And I'm over his shoulder because I've already built a couple social networks. Just, they're not, big, but so I've done full stack. So I'm like, oh, you got to do this. And I'm like, and he has the confidence because I'm around. But this dude, he learned everything from the internet. And so it's just exciting.
I think there's such an interesting point, a really important point here as well as that state of childlike wonder, that state of play of it's not no story I've seen of successful people starts with them being like, I'm going to be successful at this thing, and they've never done it before. What it starts with is them just being like, this is interesting, this is cool, I'm going to play around with it, I'm going to see, man, I've discovered something new. Okay, cool, I can do this thing. If I add this thing and this thing, okay, cool, I'm starting to get up my learning curve. But it's all about fun, it's all about enjoyment, it's all about leaning into something that gives you that endorphin rush, that gives you that that you just right? And it's double tapping on that and realizing that state of play is all you need to lean into to get to find out actually what is your calling, what is that business application thing that you've got inside of you, or hit record that you've got inside of you that you can bring out. But it starts with that willingness to just fool around a bit, right?
Yeah. And a lot of, when I think back, because I used to have a lot of songs on my mind, like things I wanted to say or beats I wanted to express. And so I did it and I learned how to do it. Then during the music career, I had all these apps on my mind. Oh, I was traveling, I wanted to make an app to track where I went on a map. And we called it Mappy Chat, and DevSlopes is a company that learned some coding from an amazing,
Nice.
Company, and and so they helped me, build Mappy Chat, and I had more ideas of apps than I did anything. I mean, literally, I could walk, or everything I did was, oh, that's an app. That's an app. That's an app. It's like when you start 3D printing, you start looking around and you're like, oh, I could 3D print that. It's just like everything. Like, hey, let's buy some toys. Hey, we're going to 3D print your toys. It's like, oh, Dad, it's like everything I tried to 3D print. And it's like that with coding. I want to make everything that I see. And it's that curiosity. And I had to do it. I still do music, working with my girlfriend, Jasmine. We're playing guitar. We're doing stuff.
You also got a writing credit. You got a writing credit on Kendrick Lamar's album as well, didn't you?
Yeah, that is it's an interesting thing. He sampled or he resung something that I produced an album on a friend of mine called Ahmad. We went to school together. Ahmad and will.i.am. We all went to the same school, and I produced Ahmad's first debut album. And Kendrick Lamar sampled a song from that album and like resung something or did something, and it gives me a writing credit because I wrote on the original, and so it's a writing credit on there. So people think I'm writing raps for Kendrick Lamar, but he's amazing. So no, that's not the case.
So from the with this, I think there's something really interesting that I wanted to bring out here, which is, back in the day, you were saying to your mum, look, if you don't learn email, you're not going to have a job. You're now saying, look, if you don't learn coding, you're not going to be part of the future. How wide do you think this is? What is this? Is there something wider happening right now in society?
Yeah. I think there is something. I mean, there's some going on, it's like tech is officially taking over, and I mean, and not just in a fun way, like, oh, we can make money and stuff. It's like, hey, if you don't know how to protect your local network, you might get infiltrated. If you don't understand, I mean, you got, code, it's big. And let's talk about the whole crypto decentralized stuff. I mean, this is a change in the way we transfer assets. It's a change in money. It's it's disrupting law firms and lawyers with NFTs. They have the contracts built in. It's a new money system. I mean, if the US government goes to the digital dollar in the next 2 years and they say cash is no more, that's not going to surprise me. That's where we're headed. I mean, you can see it.
Right.
So, I mean, how many times have you been somewhere and they say, oh, we only accept cash? And you're mad.
Yeah. And you're like,
what
in
year
is this?
Like, are you serious? When I haven't touched cash before the COVID.
Right.
I mean, I literally, even the parking meters are swipe.
Right.
It's a credit card. It's a this, that. So everything's digital now.
Right. Right.
And especially with what's going on with the crypto stuff. And people think, oh, crypto, a lot of people, oh, I don't understand it, or this, that, or that's a way. And they don't understand it's all coding. It's a bunch, it's where the coders go to, and they can make anything they want. And they're building a new society. They're building a new system, a new way, and if you get into it, it's about coding. It's like how MySpace taught you CSS and HTML a little bit. It's like crypto teaches you, the server side, and like, there's some people I know that were not coders at all. They wanted to make some NFTs and they wanted to programmatically make it. And now they're like using React and doing a node server with React, and they're making all these NFTs and learning Solidity or learning Rust because of Solana's, and that's what got me into, the Radix and the Scrypto. And when I found out that Rust was involved, Scrypto is amazing. Like, and I learned, and I built some stuff on there, and did a thing with one-on-one with one of the Radix members, Russ. And so everything you guys are doing is the future, because Rust is a whole nother podcast. That's a whole nother conversation, because everybody's talking about, it's the new C++, it's this, that, and it borrows the memory and no garbage collecting, and it's fast and this and that. And that's where I'm at, is I want the fastest language possible now, because I want to move into digital audio workstations. The blockchain, we know, needs to be fast, right? So I'm taking the biggest coding adventure of my life in learning Rust. I will tell you that right now. This is like, did aliens make this language? Who decided?
I promise, man. But, you are going to fall in love with it. You're going to fall in love with it.
Yeah.
But it's. I think that the thing that most excites me about this space is the fact that it's all greenfield, right? Like, remember when the internet first came out and all of the things that were suddenly possible, and when the phone came out and all of the things like, the iPhone and Android, all the things that were suddenly possible. Now we have this, but this is about money, right? This is about assets. This is about ownership. So, you think the information revolution of the internet was big. We're talking about a $400 trillion market that is suddenly wide open for people to build new stuff, and stuff that merges the things that weren't merged before. Social media and like the ability to create artworks that are actually also assets that create revenue streams and all this kind of stuff. It's suddenly like, it's going to be unbelievable, and it's going to be really interesting to see how like social media and finance like smash together in this as well.
Yeah, and what this revolution does, and what the coding revolution does as well, is it levels the playing field.
Right.
It levels it. Now we can be in our apartment, at the coffee shop, building the next biggest thing, because it's all code. Right. You don't need a big office building to do it. You just need an idea, and you need to, and now with the decentralized, and everybody has the nodes, and we're all the node. It's like the P2P file sharing. That's where it's coming from. And now you can become a node. I mean, it's a whole. You can become your own planet in a sense, and have your own system, your own token, your own coin if you want. You can trade other coin. This is it's the wild, wild west. I mean, it's a new frontier. And to me, I feel like I'm racing. This is like, I wake up every day and I'm like, I got to make it. I feel like the world is like dividing, and I have to, it's like,
You got to be
the
in the
old
builders.
way is coming.
Right.
Yeah. I gotta be ahead of the marathon. I gotta be in the front, up there with the coders, the builders, the creators. The days are gone of watching TV all day or just, sitting back and passively consuming, just sports and this and this, and that's what I think too is all gamers. They're like geniuses gamers, but make that transition to learn how to make the game, because it's just as thrilling to see your code work and to see this idea come to life. And every time someone uses your app, it's just unbelievable.
So man, I'm so thankful for your time and like coming on the show, but also let's just give a shout out to everyone in the community. If you want to come out and have an opportunity to build with RedFoo in Malibu, California, 3 days building a Scrypto platform program using a chess engine as the base to then sort of innovate from there. We're going to be doing all sorts of cool stuff with marketplaces and token issuances and all this kind of stuff. It's going to be amazing.
Yes.
Apply. Make sure you apply because I'm excited. RedFoo's excited. It's going to be awesome. So that's going to happen in the middle of June of this year. The applications are already out. So if you go to our blog, you can find out about that. And then like come build with this beautiful man and let's build something awesome.
Yeah, baby. Let's go. Scrypto. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, RedFoo.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.